Beautiful friends, what does the future hold in the way of weather and earth and climate events in the near future? Spirit shows me and tells me that the floodgates are about to open in the deserts. But what deserts exactly? I'm also shown a vision of the earth literally splitting apart beneath the ocean. But where exactly and what type of an effect, if any, will this have on us? Also, we're going to go look at all the names of the storms for the tropical storms and hurricanes, potential hurricanes for 2024, for the Atlantic and the Pacific. I'm going to tell you the storms that jump out at me the strongest. And we're also going to analyze the numerology to see what potential the numerology could have on upcoming tropical storms and hurricanes for 2024. I'm going to give you a list of very specific predictions that Spirit gave me. And then we're going to do some map scrying, where I pull up the map, go into my semi-trance state, gaze, and see what jumps out at me. This is my weather predictions for 2024. Beautiful friends, beautiful souls, I hope that you're having an amazing day so far. I'm spiritual medium Joseph Tittel, aka Spiritman JT, if you didn't know already. And I welcome you to my channel or back to my channel. If you're new here, you want accurate predictions, prophecy, truth, and great content, and you want to vibe with the tribe, you gotta smash that there subscribe, my friends. You gotta smash that subscribe. It takes a lot of time, energy, and effort to put all these predictions out to you. So I just ask one small little favor. Please show your love by clicking that love button, which appears as the thumbs up. Thank you for doing so. Before I move on with some specific predictions, and today we look at all the storms and everything that's coming up in the near future for 2024 season, I want you to check out the links down below in my description, where you can find my newsletter. And in that newsletter, you'll never miss any content that I put out. So in case you don't get a notification or you miss something, you won't miss it if you subscribe to the free newsletter. You'll also often find discounts for private sessions, upcoming classes, and everything else in the newsletter, along with, of course, inspirational messages and what's going on energetically that you may not find here on my channel. Also, I want to thank all the contributors who make this free content possible for everybody else. I couldn't do it without you. I thank you with infinite love and gratitude. So let's move on to some weather predictions, friends. We're going to start off our little weather prediction party today by revealing some specific predictions that were given to me by my team spirit, my guides. So thank you to all of them for providing this information for all of us. My holy spirits tell me that soon God will open up the floodgates on the desert lands where evil hides and resides. Even though the summer months will dry them out unlike previous seasons, eventually bringing about a water crisis to many parts of the desert lands. The deserts are those that lie in the Middle East, where God will also whip up the winds and sands for days on end, stopping all in its path from exiting their safe zone, their homes basically. The sands are going to act like a power sander. You know, one of them power sanders, one of them babies. And it's going to leave behind a path of destruction. So, obviously, again, this is in the Middle East. Saudi Arabia and around that came to my mind the most. When Spirit first gave this to me, I was thinking totally Saudi Arabia as far as floodgates opening up. But Spirit also showed me that the Euphrates, I would imagine, is going to dry up even more so. And then again, these whipping up winds that are going to come across, and it's going to seem very strange to people in parts of the Middle East when they keep getting these winds that keep whipping up out of nowhere. And not only winds, I know they get sandstorms, I know that already, but this is beyond any sandstorm that they've seen before. Again, leaving like a tornado of damage in its path. So it'll be interesting. Now, Dubai also comes to my mind. Dubai, so I would expect flooding around Dubai, and also I would expect some of these real severe, maybe this big severe sandstorm to go through Dubai. And if that would be the case, I would expect many of the windows and buildings to break and so forth. Moving right along. So the biggest of all earth and weather events are going to hit this year mainly between the time period of August through October. Now, April, we're going to see a lot too, because April, again, it's eclipse season, friends. Eclipse starts at the end of March. I would expect major flooding to come in at the end of March, especially the 29th of March. And if you're new and you haven't been here before, I'll remind you, in case you forgot, that storms that come in on an 11-day always do the biggest damage, which would be the date the 11th of a month or the 29th of a month, because 9 plus 2 is an 11. We have like big hurricanes that came in on those days that wiped out everything. Hurricane Katrina came in on August 29th. Hurricane Sandy came in on October 29th. So I would tell you to really strongly watch out for the time period, because we have an eclipse, I believe the 28th. I can't remember the date. Then we have one on April 8th. We have 2 in a row, a lunar and then a solar, or other way around. But regardless, we have them then, and then we have it again happening September, October. October being a really intense time. Now, I would expect, again, Texas, being that this eclipse is making its final round and the final line in the X over Texas, that Texas is going to experience some major issues when it comes to pretty much everything, especially weather-related. One of my visions, I believe, might be Texas, and I'll tell you about that in a moment. This time period, again, the end of March into early April, between those 2 eclipses is going to be intense energetically. Therefore, if that's accompanied by solar flares, I would expect the largest earthquake of all earthquakes so far this year. We didn't really have any really big ones yet this year, but I would expect maybe even the biggest earthquake that hits in 2024 to occur again between the time period of the very end of March into early April, around April 8th. And then again, repeating that, the end of September into early October. So Spirit shows me again, especially that period from August to October is when we're going to see major, massive storm activity. I would think, more April if I was just guessing. But Spirit says between August and October. August, we have that Mercury retrograde coming in. So, of course, that always affects everything, including people's mental health. I also feel that this weather is going to affect not just in the United States, but affect in other places, elections, causing delays in elections, which would make many people think that maybe some of these storm systems that are coming or weather events could be manipulated in some way or another. We'll have to wait and see how that works out and what Spirit tells me. All in all, most of it is the Earth, not manipulation. The Earth is going through some major shifts and major changes. And Spirit shows me that Earth and weather-related disasters are going to shake up United States big time. Not just United States, but in general, being I live in the United States, I focus mostly on that. But I do focus on whatever Spirit tells me, basically. So China would be another one being hit severely this year. Severe earthquakes and so forth. So moving on to the next one, Spirit showed me a vision. And I saw this vision as if I'm scuba diving, right? And I'm in the depths of the beautiful oceans, right? But it's so dark and so deep that I don't really see much ocean life, right, in this vision. Very little. Some things are moving, but I'm deep. I'm in an area in the ocean in this vision where man cannot access, not even through machine. So they can't get that deep. So I also feel the water around me all of a sudden as I'm scuba diving. I'm just kind of floating there watching, actually. And the water starts to vibrate. And the water starts to vibrate, and then I start to kind of see ripples in the water rising up from down below, and I'm looking down almost into a canyon, kind of like a canyon, like kind of where I live. I kind of feel like, because I see the mountainside, and I'm looking down, and I can't go that down. When I look down, it's dark, like I can't see nothing down there. So I'm deep, like Spirit said, an area of the ocean that we've never been. So in this vision, I'm gazing at the ocean like I'm a scuba diver. And then suddenly the water starts to ripple, and then I feel it becoming stronger and stronger. Then in my vision, I begin to see a crack begin to widen open in the ocean's bottom from a distance. And remember, it's dark as can be, but when this starts to open up, I can see it, almost as if it has a glow to it. And then all of a sudden, the one mountainside under the water started to collapse inward. Almost like I guess you could call it an underwater mountain slide, mudslide under the water. It was interesting. It began to collapse in as this crack opens up down below. And then the water got warmer and warmer. And then I saw steam and large big bubbles bubbling up from it, bubbling up out of this large crack in the earth before all of a sudden my vision disappeared. Interesting vision, to say the least. So with that, I'm going to say that, obviously, it's going to be a massive crack beneath the ocean that is going to unleash, no doubt, a tsunami. I mean, I would imagine, without a doubt, the way this thing bubbled up, just the way it bubbled up. And Spirit was showing me before I started to record the video, I had another vision of a tsunami coming out of the middle of the ocean. I don't know where, but we're going to do some map scrying. So when we look at the map, we'll see what I come up with. So I saw the ripples coming up from the top, and then I saw big waves, mostly going in two directions. You know, you would think, again, the ripple would go all three directions, and it probably did. All four directions, I mean, in a complete circle. But it looked like two big waves going that way, each way. So, you know, I'm sure it is a ripple, but the other direction would be small. It would be two really huge waves. And I saw the vision that Spirit just showed me before I started recording of ships flipping sideways, a ship flipping sideways, and people swimming for cover. And I feel like they all manage. I believe they all manage. Let's hope that they manage. So, tsunami wave that causes ships in the middle of the ocean somewhere to just flip over. Or at least a ship. Might not be multiple, but a ship. And it would be just the way it's sitting and the way this wave hits it. If the boat's pointing in a different direction, Spirit says it won't flip it over. So, prayers to those folks. So the vision of me scuba diving. That was wild. It's really neat under there, I got to tell you, friends. Really neat underneath that ocean. I mean, I've been snorkeling, but I've never been scuba diving. That'd be awesome. So the east coast of Japan, close to where the 2011 quake and tsunami hit, is going to become active again. Now, some of these predictions, some of this stuff, again, we've heard Spirit mentioned before in the past, which means, you know, if you watch me every Tuesday, as we repeat predictions or predictions get repeated, we usually get sometimes more information, more details, or as it's coming closer to that event coming into fruition, I'll start to get more information about it again. So this gives me deja vu. So I know that I said something about a tsunami is going, not a tsunami, I'm sorry, Japan, and the area where the tsunami did hit and the earthquake happened right off the coast of Japan in the Pacific. I feel that there is going to be activity flaring up right there. A little bit north of the point where the 2011 earthquake hit in Japan, off the coast of Japan. So I see concerns between Fukushima and Tokyo. So that whole area in between those two places, closer to Tokyo though. And Japan is going to be hit hard in 2024, but even more so in early 2025, by an Earth event that is going to ignite humanitarian efforts to assist in the aftermath. So I have to be honest that 2024 and 2025 almost feels a little bit creepy when it comes to weather and Earth events. And I don't want to say things to make you feel creepy or scared. Again, these predictions come up so that we know and we can be aware, and more than anything, so you can prepare. It's always important to know that you'll be safe as long as you're prepared, no matter what, no matter where you are. Because no matter where you are, you may think that you may be in a safe zone, but when it comes to Mother Nature, we never know. Mother Nature is moody. She's very moody. You just never know when she's going to get ticked off and whip something up in an area that you never thought it would hit. So again, the east coast of Japan, close to where the 2011 quake hit off the coast, caused the tsunami in Fukushima. There's going to be activity igniting a little bit north of where that hit in 2011. And then I get strong activity between Fukushima and Tokyo, but closer to Tokyo. Again, Spirit shows me coming up between now and the end of 2025, there's going to be a large enough event that's going to cause a call for some humanitarian efforts. We're going to see that Spirit just said 3 times. 3 calls on humanitarian effort within the year. Within the year or within the next year? Because we're at the end of February. Within the year. Within a year. So I'll just take it as within a year. Soon we're going to see a volcanic eruption spewing from beneath the sea. And this isn't related. I don't think it's related to the vision of this me scuba diving and seeing the crack in the earth. So Spirit showed me that we're going to see another volcanic eruption spilling ash from beneath the sea, while tsunamis, most being small, thankfully, will become the common event in 2024 and 2025 as the oceans begin to churn with activity. Even feeling strange earth events that are occurring in the Atlantic Ocean. Both oceans, but the Atlantic I got pulled to. And I believe closer at the Atlantic Ocean, closer to Africa. And another eruption, a volcanic eruption happening again in Iceland. And Spirit told us that before, and it happened twice. But Spirit says another one's coming. Also, Mount Kilauea in Hawaii. Also, a big blow. And we're going to see in certain areas volcanic eruptions that are so large that it causes, of course, evacuations, especially the one that's going to blow in Indonesia. I mean, whatever's going to happen in Indonesia, it's going to be a big one, baby. I mean, big. So we're going to have to sit back and see and pray for that, none of this to happen. So China is going to be hit really hard this year from weather, earthquakes, and other weather events. A quake is going to hit near the big city of Beijing, along with dealing with more severe flooding. Remember the flooding they had last year? Woo! They didn't tell anybody, but we found out. And it's going to cause 2 dams within China to burst. China is also going to lose a very important bridge that's going to either collapse or be shut down or both due to damage from either the earthquake or floods or both, actually. China's in for it this year, and they got pounded last year. Spirit warned them, but they're going to get pounded even more. And when I look at the map, do some map gazing, we'll see. And you may already have heard in my predictions for 2024 that we are going to see volcanic eruptions occurring in the United States. You know, most people would think right away, United States, oh yeah, probably Alaska. But isn't that more common? Because what I see and feel coming in the United States is more close to home. So, do not be alarmed when there are suddenly wide-range power outages, okay? And even though this doesn't all have to do with weather, some of it does. So there's going to be, even if you're not getting weather and you have a blackout, somehow or another it's going to be related to weather. Most likely, my feeling is solar flares. That is connected to Earth, climate, and weather events. So don't be alarmed. And I feel like it'll be temporary if it's in the United States. But other places may have to wait a while, including places in Africa that lose power and they have to go in and redo the whole entire thing all over again, south, towards the southern tip. Because I know people are saying, where in Africa? Africa's big. To the south is all Spirit told me. I don't know if that's South Africa. If Spirit said to the south. And again, when we look at the map, maybe it'll jump out at me. So not only that, with these solar things that are coming in, it's going to have a major effect on like anything that we would have ever expected. And you can expect there to be another Carrington type of event between now and the end of probably not even the end of 2025, between now and mid-2025, but likely in 2024. So again, you may expect to see another Carrington event, which is the sun flare that took out communications, happening again now in our time period, and being a little much more damaging only in the fact that because I forget what year that was. What year was that? I forget what year that was. I don't think it was in my time. But the Carrington event wasn't the 1800s, I think maybe. Again, somebody will say it in the comments. I have no doubt. But we're going to see another Carrington type of event that'll be much more damaging than the Carrington event was. This is going to affect one side of the planet, of course, and not the other side. I don't know what side, but I feel like Africa is somehow in that light. I don't know what the United States is, but China's in that light. So China's going to actually lose some communications and maybe even some power grids from solar flares between now and 2025. And Spirit's showing me that now. So I also see flooding coming to Greece. I see Greece having major flooding. And as I say that to you, and I say, I see major flooding in Greece, Spirit shows me a vision of the volcano erupting. And so maybe our friends in Greece can help me with this. I feel like I'm standing near the Colosseum, okay? And I feel like if I'm facing the Colosseum, see, it depends what direction. The Colosseum's round. So what direction? If I'm facing, I feel like I could see it off in the distance. If there was an eruption to occur, you'd be able to see it off in the distance. Far enough to feel safe is what Spirit says. So somebody maybe in Greece can tell us what volcano that would be. Spirit says, no worries this time. Just be aware of the quakes that come with it. But no worries this time. So it'll be a small eruption, I would imagine. But it looks big for my vision. Big enough, but nothing to worry about, I guess, Spirit says. Also, I'm getting cancellations of airlines due to eruptions, and even a small plane not staying away from the volcano like they're supposed to ends up going down. And I think that's in South America. Spirit shows me the vision. They're flying and you can see the smoke in my vision. You can see the plane and they don't care. They're going right towards it. Something happens, I don't know, to the engines. I'm guessing from ash, takes down the plane. And it looks kind of, not, I wouldn't say remote, but it looks like I'm in South America with that. And again, Spirit's showing me that now. So I see more flooding coming to New York, and I've said this in the past, but again, this is all about weather today. So I'm seeing, and it seems like one part, so the lower part, whatever that is, I think maybe Manhattan, whatever's lower, Spirit shows me one side's lower, and it's like the water's coming up. So I'm going to say some kind of water surges that come up into the streets to the point that it gets into subway systems and shuts things down for a while. Some subway systems, there'll be video that we're going to see of subway systems filled, with water. Somebody's down there taking video. I don't know how they're getting video down there, but it's like 9 feet of water. It's kind of interesting vision. That's New York. That would be related from a hurricane and storm surge from a hurricane without a doubt. So when we look at hurricane names, we'll have to see what pops out at us. Quite a few popped out at me. Actually, we'll talk about that in a moment. So warnings, and actually Spirit said when it comes to New York, it's actually flooding in the northern parts first. Flooding in the northern parts first. Buffalo and all up in that area. Including right across the border in Canada. There's going to be a lot of flooding up in that area. Including some issues with either mudslides or something up in that area, especially on the Canadian side. So they're showing me that, and I don't know how weather is going to affect Niagara Falls, but Spirit shows me now that the weather somehow is going to have an effect on Niagara Falls. Something odd or something strange that maybe they shut it down. I'm not sure. And that was new. These things aren't in my notes. This is the Spirits chatting with me now, which is always the best, right? The most fun. So Spirit, spring, it's going to arrive early for most. I know spring's arriving early for us here in the canyon, Arizona, because all my little flowers are starting to pop up already. And it just feels like spring's arriving early here, without a doubt. So, but Spirit says spring is going to arrive early for most. But the early spring arrival in a few small areas, is going to be followed by sudden cold. That sudden cold is going to damage already blooming crops. This would be, again, likely in the far northern areas. So where you think that you're safe, but you're not. Weather-wise, you think you're safe, but you're not. So Spirit says, be aware. Be aware. And what this is going to have the major effect on is mostly fruit trees. It's going to affect fruit trees. Other plants, I guess people can cover them up or what have you. But Spirit shows me it's affecting, I hope that's not here, because that happened here years ago. So, I was going to say, by late summer and the fall months is when we are going to expect the most significant weather and earth events, again, affecting the entire globe. Many are going to experience extremely early snowfall. All right, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, friends. I mean, we're not even out of the snow in the summer yet, but Spirit's already talking about next season and very early snowfalls like October in places where it don't snow in October, maybe even late September, actually, Spirit says, late September, snowfall. And it'll be really interesting because I said this many, many years ago. Been doing predictions for, 17 years or whatever, however many years I've been doing this. And when I said this last time, people said I was cuckoo for cocoa, right? I said I saw a vision of snow in the Sahara Desert. Everybody said that was crazy, and it happened. Well, it's going to happen again, friends. Snow in the Sahara Desert. I'm thinking more next season, whatever that is. I don't know what their seasons are there. Spirit says it's coming again. Significant. So it'll be significant. So that would make me think measurable, significant snow. Interesting, right? Be interesting to see that come into fruition again. Because I remember saying that. It might have been about 10 years ago I said that. Time flies, can't keep track of things. I remind you also of my visions and predictions for San Francisco, which would be very close to an epicenter when it comes to a larger earthquake. Because remember, I saw visions of the San Francisco bridge swaying back and forth in my visions, and also made predictions that they would shut it down temporarily, but they were going to shut it down for whatever damage related to either an earthquake or a storm of some sort. But Spirit told us that that bridge would have to be shut down for major repairs. Again, that's not the whole bridge coming down, but major repairs after some type of earth event that hits in or near San Francisco. So another reminder from past predictions would be from a recent channeled prediction video that I did that warns the United States to watch for this large eruption of a volcano. Maybe Mount St. Helens. Remember, Spirit said to keep our eyes on Mount St. Helens, and perhaps actually a larger one in Alaska. I'm not clear exactly, where in the United States, but Spirit did tell us to watch those specific locations. I don't at all believe it's the Yellowstone, because a lot of people think it's Yellowstone. We all better hope. If you're in North America, you better hope it's not that. Even Canada, that would affect them too. No, it's not that. There could be an eruption in Yellowstone. Don't get me wrong, but it's not going to be the super volcano erupting, thankfully. I also see rescue efforts, again, taking place to relocate people after volcanic eruptions take place. Twice is what Spirit told me. 2 separate times. 2 separate different volcanoes where people have to be evacuated. And we saw that in Iceland, right? Spirit told us that was going to happen. Told us Iceland was going to erupt. And then also I had visions of people being relocated because of a volcano. And that's exactly the parts of the town, I don't know, might still be burning. That volcano was no joke. And it erupted twice, just as Spirit said. And there's going to be another big eruption in Iceland. And it might not be actually the same volcano. I'm feeling like it'll be something different. Maybe on the opposite end, because I feel like they're kind of lined up. But maybe on the opposite end, whatever that means. Maybe someone in Iceland can fill us in on that one. I also, again, on the West Coast, from Northern California, all the way up to Washington, and even up into Alaska, the ring of fire that goes through that area, Spirit says, is going to really begin to ignite. And it's going to be very active over the next 3 to 4 years. In turn, we're going to see multiple eruptions in the United States, where I see activity rising up both from Mount Hood and the Three Sisters volcano. So, not that it's all 3 sisters, but maybe one of the 3 sisters. But yeah, Mount Hood, Three Sisters, and Spirit told me again to keep an eye on Mount St. Helens and Mount Rainier as well. So much sooner than that, we're going to see the bigger eruption that happens in Hawaii. Massive eruption that's going to happen in Indonesia, and that might be the big one. Indonesia. It's so big that I see part of the mountain collapsing in on one side. So that's compared to La Palma, and Spirit said another big La Palma, bigger than La Palma, is coming. So that could be actually in Indonesia. That could be where our evacuations are taking place as well. I see damaged buildings, evacuations, and so forth. Even more so, Haiti just popped in my mind, actually. Thank you, Spirits. Haiti. So that could also not volcanic related, but massive earthquake in Haiti. Remember that one they had a long time ago? Or they're going to get another shaking in the near future. Many islands, Spirit says, are going to begin to shake. Many islands. Haiti's like an island. Cuba, the Caribbean. So many islands will shake. I have more on islands in a minute. So even more so, we're going to witness underwater volcanoes. Underwater volcanoes erupting like we're seeing in Japan. An activity, Japan has that volcano that's forming a whole new little island. So we're going to see more like that around Japan specifically and China. So that part of the Ring of Fire really igniting greatly. I would expect Japan to maybe even have another one that forms another island in the near future. One of these is going to shoot up from the sea in the near future. It's a really neat looking vision that I saw. And I saw that years ago. I don't know how long you've been following me. If you were following me back then, you'll remember. I think it might have been 2020, actually. I think it was 2020. Where I said that I saw that vision and that happened. And it was kind of a big deal. Well, I see that happening again. And I see it being even a bigger of a deal. So a big volcanic blast that we see shooting out from beneath the sea. In the near future, Spirit said. This is also going to add to the rising ocean temperatures. So in turn, Spirit says, because of these blasts under the water, watch for the large blast beneath the ocean as they will be followed by a series of weather and earth events, starting with a large earthquake along the closest shorelines. So again, Spirit says to watch for the large blast beneath the ocean as they will be followed by a series of weather and earth events, starting with a large earthquake along the closest shores to this blast. Also watch tropical systems that are going to develop afterwards in the same sea. So wherever this ocean erupts, wherever this is erupting under the sea that we're aware of, because the big crack that I saw when we started and the two tsunami waves going in different directions, I don't think you would see that. And that wasn't necessarily a volcano, but it just boiled up and bubbled up kind of like that. But this one we'll see, and Spirit says watch the closest coast to where this underwater volcano erupts are going to be the ones that experience, and I feel like I'm on two coasts, massive earthquakes from this. Major earthquakes, not massive, but major earthquakes from this. And Spirit again says watch that area where this volcano is and tropical storms that develop afterwards. So keep our eye on the sky, but keep your eye on the ocean too. I see big storms coming across both China and Japan, bringing about great floods and record snowfall in higher elevations, which they're probably already getting. So others are going to have an early spring, but the higher elevations in Asia are not going to have that problem in China and in Japan. This goes for both our friends in Australia and United States West Coast. In these places, we're going to see, again, more severe flooding. Spring season is going to bring about so many mudslides and other devastations. And I'm going to say that this is probably still poor California. California, and Spirit told us a while ago, California was going to get pounded. At the beginning of this year, I guess it was. And they were right. Spirits was right. Spirits is saying they're going to continue to get pounded. I'm not saying that the severe flooding that's coming is still all the West Coast, all California, but definitely the West Coast. I'm just getting this separate vision of the wave that's coming to the shore, and I feel like this, I don't know if it's a huge, could be smaller wave, tsunami wave is hitting the lower part or upper part of Mexico. So the bottom tip of California, where it meets up with Mexico, right below there, is where I believe a wave is going to hit. I don't know how big of a wave, but that just got into my brain. Spirit likes to throw stuff at me like we're playing baseball or something. It's going back to these floods. Major floods, again, Australia, Queensland comes to me, United States West Coast. I see problems in Venice, Italy, with floods, and there's some other problem that comes with their waters. We know Venice is all low waters. So if Spirit says there's another issue that arises around the waters in Venice, I would think that would have to be weather related or earth related. Again, we'll have to wait and see. I believe it will be between the time period of August through October that large, long-awaited earthquake would hit California. Now, as you may or may not know, the hardest thing to do with predictions is nailing down a time. Although Spirit has told us things that happen right away or during the time periods that Spirit has said, I'm intuitively being pulled to that window of time. August is that retrograde energy. We have the eclipses coming up in October. And I believe that will be a time where California and Washington will both be hit. Because I see 3 separate locations being hit around the same time. One off the coast in the Pacific. That could very well bring a small wave, again, a small tsunami wave to both the United States West Coast and Hawaii. So I believe that they might even try to blame that earthquake, of course they will, on weather modification. And I don't necessarily believe that that's at all the case in this situation, but we'll have to see when it happens and tune into it then. It's going to be a series of 3 earthquakes, and perhaps even a 4th shortly after the 3 that come together. Spirit shows me that they're separately, that I see a series of 3. This is something to watch closely, friends. Watch the sun. Be aware of the sun flares, because I see a series of 3 sun flares, like erupting. And if you don't know, they look like kind of like volcanoes erupting. See 3 of them erupting, and then soon after, a 4th solar flare erupts. And this is going to give us, according to Spirit, very short notice for this massive quake that Spirit says is going to be felt from hundreds of miles away. I don't know where that is. Spirit did not say a place, but I'll repeat that. It's going to be a series of 3 solar flares that all happen kind of almost simultaneously, followed by a 4th. That's going to be a very short warning for this massive earthquake that's going to hit that will be felt from hundreds of miles away. Perhaps an 8.0. I mean, I don't know nothing about earthquakes and how far you could feel them from, and I think it depends on the shallowness or how deep they are. But so I would think that this is probably a shallow one if it's being felt from so far away. But I would also think it's a really big one. But I really don't know because I'm not an earthquake expert. I'm just Spirit Man, spiritual medium. That's it. So there's also going to be a series of islands, likely the Solomon Islands, but we're going to look at the map in a few minutes, that experience a huge shifting of the plates below that literally shift the islands, causing several smaller islands to sink, while another island increases in size. This is going to unleash, of course, a big tsunami wave. So keep in mind that some predictions, again, come into fruition much quicker than other predictions. One thing I do know and feel for sure is that by the time this decade comes to a close, there's going to be land masses that have shifted in so many places that it's going to change some of the maps. Some maps are going to have to be recreated, or parts of the maps, not the entire maps. And something that's going to occur, Spirit shows me, that's going to affect GPSs and throw GPS systems off a line for weeks, perhaps months. I believe the GPS issue would be related to a satellite likely being damaged from solar flares. It's just a guess, because again, when I was tuning into this, I was tuning into weather and earth events when Spirit showed me that there was going to be a GPS satellite that was going to go out and be down for days. So again, I would imagine that would have to be from a solar flare. Separately, I have seen visions of a satellite being shot down from the sky, but that is part of other predictions. So if you want other predictions, remember to join me every Tuesday for Tuesday's Tittle Tea Time Predictions Update, when we go over world events and how they may or may not pertain to past predictions and prophecies, along with new predictions each and every week. So check it out. Be sure to vibe with the tribe and smash that there subscribe, friends. I see a fairly large tornado. I had a vision, and in this vision, it appeared, I saw high buildings like skyscraper. I saw one, and I can't say I saw multiple, but it was as if I was like on the other side in a high building watching this occur. And in this vision, it seemed to me that this tornado was moving along the edge of a city, small city with large skyscraper buildings. And again, it was as if I was watching from another high building, watching this all take place, and I saw debris, of course, flying all over the place, but I also saw windows blowing out of the tall buildings as debris was being literally sucked out of one of the windows. It was wild, actually, wild vision. Looked like I was watching a movie, actually, excuse me. It was like I was watching a movie, and I saw a truck literally lifted up into the sky and then landing halfway into a building, like going into the building, and it's at the end of it sticking out. So that was pretty wild in the vision. I think this might actually be in Texas. Perhaps Dallas, Texas, or right outside of Dallas, but I'm not completely clear. Another thing that came into my mind was Chattanooga, Tennessee. I've been there once. Chattanooga, Tennessee came to mind, and I don't remember. I was only there once, and it was a long time ago. I don't remember any skyscraper or big buildings like that. Not that they're like New York skyscrapers, but tall buildings. And I don't know if they have them in Chattanooga. But I'm not necessarily relating this necessarily to this tornado. When I was working on this and I got that vision of that tornado, soon after, Chattanooga, Tennessee jumped into my mind. So when that jumped into my mind, I mean, yes, it could be related to this tornado, but it could also be related to a separate tornado. But I think Chattanooga is pretty much in the mountains, so I find it hard to believe. But there again, Spirit did say tornadoes in places that we would have never believed they existed because they never previously did exist there. So if it's not a tornado, then I believe that Chattanooga, Tennessee is going to experience a small earthquake or other type of large weather event. They'll all be fine, so no worries if you're in Chattanooga. But be aware and, again, be prepared. So, top hurricane disasters. We're going to go move on to hurricanes. Now, let us move on to hurricane season and tropical storms. So how is this season going to work out in the way of tropical storms and hurricanes? One thing's for sure, I feel like there's a point with one side, I'm not sure if it's the Atlantic or Pacific, I believe the Atlantic, that we're going to run out of hurricane names. And I forget exactly how it goes when they run out of names, but I feel like they're going to go through the names. Not many after going through the names, maybe 2 or 3 storms after the names run out, but I do feel like that. So first, let's look at the names, and here's what I want you to do with me. I want you to just take a deep breath, relax, allow yourself to sink deeply, tap into your intuition. You have it, we all do. And I'm going to pull up the list of names. We'll start with the East Coast hurricane list. I'm going to pull up this list, and I want you to tell me what jumps out at you. Tell yourself first. We'll do the Atlantic tropical. So here's the list of names. When I pulled this out, the first name that jumped out at me was Joyce. Joyce and Valerie jumped out at me very, very strongly. They weren't the only ones. When again, gaze at that, tell me what you think jumps out. Gordon has a heavy, heavy vibration to it. Gordon, Joyce and Kurt, I feel like, of course, they're back-to-back storms. I feel like they're like real close to each other in the sea at the same time. Also, Milton jumped out at me very strongly. So again, Joyce was the first one. Valerie was the second one that jumped out at me. Then Milton jumped out at me, followed by Gordon. And then Raphael only jumped out at me over the aspect that Raphael is the archangel representative in my work with ceremony to the east in the elemental spirits of air. So Raphael is definitely going to come in with some pounding winds unlike anything that we've witnessed. Whether it touches land or not, that's another story. And remember, friends, I remind you that when it comes to storms, if there's a storm that's touching land and hitting on the 11th or the 29th, and it's hitting where you live, you better take shelter. Big time. Biggest storms ever always come in on those dates. Always. Hurricane Katrina again, the 29th of August. Hurricane Sandy, the 29th of October. 9 plus 2 is an 11. That's an 11 day, along with the dates the 11th, of course, as well. So, now that they jumped out at you, those names, now let's look at the numerology to the same list of names. So, in numerology, when it comes to numbers with storms, not that numbers, the number, so in numerology, there's a name calculator. You can actually go online and Google numerology name calculator. And your name adds up, of course, to a number in numerology. Not that numbers always have a big influence on hurricanes as far as the hurricane's name, but it definitely has a vibration to it, of course. It's the dates that are more significant, like I said, the 11th or the 29th of a month. So let me give you some examples. Hurricane Yolanda, actually it wasn't even a hurricane, it was Typhoon Yolanda that hit in 2013, which they called a Category 5 Super Typhoon. And that breaks down in numerology to the number 9. Hurricane Sandy that hit in the year 2012 on, again, October 29th on an 11 day, Hurricane Sandy is a 9 vibration, just like Typhoon Yolanda was in 2013. Now we have Hurricane Andrew in 1992, which is an 11. I don't know what date Andrew came in on, but the vibration of the name Andrew is an 11. Just like Hurricane Charlie in 2004 was also a 9 vibration. Hurricane Jeannie in 2004 was a 22. Along with in 2005, Wilma, who was also a 22. And then we had Hurricane Dennis in 2005, which was an 11 storm. So why I bring this up is you see all the storms I named are either an 11, a 22, or a 9. Now, when I went through a list of the biggest storms that hit in hurricanes over the past few decades, I also noticed a lot of 4s and 6s with certain storms, big storms. But these other storms line up. So again, let's bring back up the list of numerology. And here's your numbers. So the first one that jumped out at me was Joyce. Joyce is a 22. And remember, 22 also breaks down to the 4 vibration. And I told you I saw a lot of storms with a 4 vibration in the past. Big storms that touched land and caused a lot of damage. Hurricane Kurt, back to back. I told you I saw both of them out at the sea at the same time. Now, I had a vision last year that didn't come into fruition, and sometimes visions take longer to come into fruition when it comes to visions specifically. So I had a vision of 2 storms coming together, making a mega storm, and that could potentially be connected to the 11s and the 22s. Because again, we have that 4 vibration of Joyce, which is the 22, and Kurt. Put them together, you have the 4 vibration and the 8 vibration, and 2024 is an 8 vibrational year. So Milton jumped out at me really strongly. Milton's an 11 storm. So definitely Joyce and Milton, I believe, have the strongest potential in 2024 as far as storms and hurricanes. Valerie also. They were the 3 that jumped out at me most. Joyce, Valerie, Milton. And it's interesting that Joyce is the 22, Milton's the 11, and Valerie is a 9 storm, just like Hurricane. What was it, Sandy? Hurricane Sandy, I said Hurricane Sandy was a 9 vibrational storm. Now, Raphael's a 7. I've seen some big storms that were on a 7. I haven't seen big storms hit on a 2, an 8. It's kind of interesting because I looked at all the big storms and their vibrational numbers. So again, to look at this list, I'm going to say that Gordon's going to cause some problems. Isaac kind of jumps out at me now too, actually. Isaac just totally like kind of bit me in my arm. So those 3 in a row, Isaac, Joyce, and Kurt, we're going to have to keep an eye out for. Again, Milton being the 11, Raphael and Valerie. That's what I'm going with. So now if I were to pick what I think would be the biggest storm out of all storms that are going to hit in 2024 as far as hurricanes are concerned, I'm going to say it's going to be a toss-up between Hurricane Joyce, Hurricane Valerie, followed by Hurricane Raphael. They're my 3 choices. Put your choices down below in the comments, and we'll find out who might be right this year. Let's move on to Pacific storms now. In the realm of Pacific storms, here is your list of names. These are your list of names. So, Bud jumped out at me, not hard, but Bud jumped out at me. And when I look at the list, I go down the names and see what one at a time. But on this particular list, Olivia jumped out at me. Olivia, Xavier was a strong one actually for me. And, Gilma had a good strong vibration. Vincent, or I'm sorry, is it Vincente? Vincente. I don't know if did I look up that one? I didn't notice the E on the end of that name. But Xavier, and then look, we have Hurricane Yolanda again. Now, it was a tropical storm. Now, it was a typhoon back in 2013 called Yolanda. That was a Category 5 super typhoon. But now we have, and I thought they didn't reuse names, friends. So now they're naming another storm Yolanda. You watch. I bet you out of this list, Yolanda's going to be the beast. The biggest beast of all. So looking at this list again, I'm going to say Daniel did jump out at me. Daniel, Gilma, Norman and Olivia both actually back to back. Norman and Olivia, Xavier, Yolanda. They're the big strong ones. I think Sergio's going to bring on Storm Surge. I don't know. It'll end up being likely a tropical storm Sergio, but Sergio's going to definitely bring in some flooding and some storm surge. I'm going to say Sergio will probably likely stay a tropical storm. Now I want you to look at the numerology that's associated with this. What storms jumped out at you? And here's the numbers listed. Look at all the nines right away. Bud. And Bud did have a strong vibration to me when I looked at the list. Carlotta, Daniel, all nines. Nines can be big storms like Hurricane Sandy. Miriam. Now, you notice in my notes there, I put Xavier. I highlighted Xavier coming up the coast. And Xavier is the 7 storm. So remember that. Again, Xavier coming up the coast. And then Yolanda, of course, is a 9 vibration. So out of that whole list, I'm going to say the beast is likely going to be Yolanda, just because it's just kind of odd. And a toss-up, Olivia jumped out at me, and it's interesting. I didn't ever see any 5 big storms when I was doing my research in storm numbers. So again, Xavier, Yolanda being my top choice for the biggest storms on the Pacific. Daniel would probably be the first problem storm. Daniel, Bud could be a problem, but I'm going to say the first big problem storm on the Pacific side is going to be Daniel. Daniel, followed by some issues coming between Gilma and Hector because of the directions that they're going in together. They're going to both be out at sea together. And it'll be interesting, friends, to see both Bud, Carlotta, and Daniel, all 9 storms, all out in the sea at the same time. Same with Fabio, Gilma, and Hector, all of them being out at sea at the same time. That would be interesting, right? So again, to go over that, I say Yolanda, followed by Xavier. Problems with Daniel, problems with Gilma, Sergio bringing major storm surge and flooding, and Norman jumped out at me. I know Norman's a 3, but Norman and Olivia back-to-back jumped out at me. So overall, I think the storms, I believe and feel that the storms on the Atlantic side are going to be worse, but it actually may be the Pacific side that runs out of names. So it's going to be interesting. So shall we go over that again just to give you my picks for the Atlantic hurricane storm season? Valerie jumps out and Joyce. They're the 2 strongest ones that jump out at me the most on that whole list. But I do believe that Isaac's going to cause some big problems, likely for a toss-up between Florida and Texas. Keep an eye out for Isaac. Isaac followed by Joyce. And don't be surprised to see Joyce and Kurt both out at sea at the same time. Maybe those 2 forming into one. And then Milton and Nadine being out at sea at the same time. May not touch land, but Milton did jump out at me. Raphael bringing in high winds and maybe record-breaking winds that Raphael is going to bring in. As even a tropical storm that may go into a hurricane but break down pretty quickly. Francine, she feels like fun. I don't know what that means, but for some reason, Francine feels like fun. And I don't know what Spirit's sense of fun is, but we'll have to keep an eye. Again, going back to the Pacific side, the Pacific storms. Xavier, as you see, is one that I not marked off, but I say Yolanda has the strongest one, strongest vibration, followed by a toss-up between Miriam and Norman. Norman did jump out at me pretty strong. Look out for Gilma, and Sergio with the storm surge. And there you have it for hurricanes. Again, I want to know what you think. What jumps out at you? Pick one. What storm? Or pick two. Or pick three. Pick whatever you want. But tell me what you think jumps out at you the strongest. We'll compare notes. And we'll look at this on one of the Tuesday shows coming up as the storms come in. And again, if you're new here, every Tuesday, very often, I get a lot of weather predictions and earthquake predictions that usually come true very quickly. So tune in every Tuesday to find out what's going on in the near future in your area and around the world in the way of weather and earth events. So Spirit says on the list, again, perhaps both lists, they're going to run out of names this season. So it's going to be interesting. So remember, batten down the hatchets, be prepared, not scared, and you'll be good to go. Let's move on. Now we are going to move on to a form of divination which is referred to as scrying. But the way I'm going to do it today is by a term that I deemed Map Scrying. So scrying in general is the form of divination when you use a black bowl of water or a black mirror to gaze into with hopes to see visions and things connected to the future. You can also use a black mirror to even tap into past lives. It is said and believed that Nostradamus' main form of divination was scrying. And Nostradamus used a bowl, likely carved out of black obsidian or black onyx, filled with water, in which he gazed into, and came up with many of the quatrains that people still follow hundreds of years later. Now there's this, which is a slate of black obsidian that I use for scrying, because I do teach scrying in one of my courses, Course in Divination. I like this the best. That's my favorite. A bowl of water works too, but I really like this. It's got to be black though. You could use a crystal ball, but it has to be big like this, and it has to have a black background. So most people that gaze into crystal balls will have it sitting on the table with a black pillow on top of a black pillow or a black piece of, good, nice cloth. But it has to have a black background. That's the whole idea of scrying, friends. That's the whole method. It goes back thousands of years ago. One of my favorites. But what I did is I stumbled upon Map Scrying, or Spirit led me to it. Or one day I was just gazing at a map, Google Earth, and things started to jump out at me. So that's why I deemed the term Map Scrying. So let's bring up Google Earth and see what I see. Do you see what I see? All right, let me get into my little mode here, Yes, thank you, Spirit, for guiding me on this journey as you do each and every moment of my life. I am grateful. Thank you. Bring up Google Earth. Here we go. All right. Let's do some gazing. Gazing. Sorry if you do happen to hear a noise in the background. That would be my dishwasher. Zooming in here. Greece is jumping out at me, and we just talked about Greece, but it's jumped right out at me on the map. Greece. I don't know where the volcanoes are there at all. But let this map pull up as it pulls up. So mainly down in this area here, right down in here is where I feel like things are stirring up. Potentially around these little islands here too. It's almost like the activity stirring up right here in this little area right there. There goes the dishwasher. Whoosh. And then when I go over here to our friends in the boot country, the little boot, Italy, I'm being pulled up here to Florence. Let's get in a little bit closer here. Not saying that this is all earthquake related, of course. We're looking at anything that jumps out of the map at me. And right here between both Rome and Florence, and I want to say right up in here, I would tell those folks to expect some activity, especially with storm that potentially comes right up this little avenue here in this sea. And hits right there on the edge. But as far as earthquake activity, I'm feeling more towards the edge down here around the boot as we get even closer to Greece. So right around the heel of the boot, actually. It's going to be more volcanic activity, mainly, that comes up in Greece, of course, which always brings earthquakes. But it feels to me that it's more the concerns about the volcano and making sure we get people out of there in time. Bulgaria pops out. Between these two areas of Romania and Bulgaria. Romania jumped out first, but then Bulgaria. So I'm going to say this year they can expect something really big. Now, here's the other thing when I do map gazing is I do get information other than just weather events. Things jump out at me. Whereas I say Romania, for example, I see military activity heightening up due to some kind of concern or worry or something with Romania. But in between Romania and Bulgaria is where I feel like there's going to be big shakings. Shrink that map back down a little bit. I'm looking. Let me go smaller. France. Oui, monsieur. I would love to go there to Madrid. That'd be awesome. Awesome place. This is where I was looking for. The desert. Spirit said the deserts, the floodgates would open in the deserts, right? So as we gaze at this, I'm really pulled up here towards Libya. And Libya is going to have enough problems as is, especially between Libya and Sudan, other than, again, weather. This is the thing with Map Scrying. The thing with Map Scrying is I get other information about other things. I'm trying to be tuned in specifically to weather, but, you know, they say beggars can't be choosers. I got to get what Spirit gives me, what jumps out at me. So, yeah, I see something big happening between this area. I'm going to say those floodgates opening. One of the places that's going to happen is right here between Libya and Egypt. So this area, maybe these whole four corners here, this whole four corners, that could be one of the areas where we see floodgates opening up. And especially, again, also right around Saudi Arabia, which, where are they on this map somewhere? Going back down. Somalia, and I know there's so many problems with Somalians and the pirates and such. I'm pulled to Somalia, and I feel big storms coming into Somalia. Even things that shake the earth in that area between Somalia and Ethiopia. So I would say minor earthquake activity happening between those two places right above and near Kenya, Africa as well. But also a big storm that comes into this area of the map. I mean, like nailing. I mean, I feel like they get nailed with something huge and something big. Including down here at the southern tip of Cape Town. I know we got some watchers in Cape Town. Hello there, friends. Hello. It's going to be really dry, as it already is, it appears, by the map. Very, very dry, but that's going to lead to some of your areas that you may consider to be desert-like areas will be flooded. To be prepared, because I see a small village being washed out and having to take the higher ground. It's close to the river, Spirit says. It's close to the river, so close to the river, wherever that may be, between Cape Town and right around this area of the map right here. Let's see if we can get closer. I would imagine this is a river here. I feel like down there's a river there. So, up in this region, right in that little circle area. Spirit says closer to Cape Town, a little bit closer to Cape Town. It's up in here. Where there could be a small village that's washed away where they got to go to higher water. Spirit said closer to the river, but didn't say how close to the river. How close to the river. All right. Let's spin around a little bit more. Madagascar needs to be aware of a fire breaking out up in this area. I believe actually connected to lightning, but being aware, perhaps Not that they're listening or watching or care, but hopefully that they can get it under control quickly. I feel like it's related, again, to weather, like a lightning strike that causes a little bit of a wildfire over here at this part of Madagascar. Rolling. Massive area here of earthquake activity, Spirit says. Right there. Up a little higher. All right. Right there, Spirit says. This whole map. Major earthquake activity. So let's see. So I see right along here, the Red Sea, I see some problems with the heat drying things up and becoming drier right in this area during the late summer months. I see an earthquake that literally breaks right through this whole area right here. So right through Saudi Arabia. And this is mainly where my flooded deserts are going to be. The flooded deserts and the floodgates opening in the deserts is going to be mainly up here. Saudi Arabia, between Saudi Arabia, Syria, and Georgia, but mainly like this whole region here, closer to one of their bigger cities as well. I would expect there to be continued floodgates opening right in this little area down here where it's really dry. So it looks like they're going to get some major things happening sometime this year in that area. Iraq, between this area right here, I see a massive earthquake taking place. A massive, go a little to the right, Spirit says. Go a little to the right. Right there, Spirit says. Okay. So from Iraq, where did Iran go? So Egypt, Spirit told us that Egypt was going to shake. And we didn't know whether to take that as an earthquake or shaking politically or both. I believe I took that as being both right around Cairo, Egypt. Let me go back to where Spirit was just showing me. Iran, Iraq, there it is right here. So right through Iraq, right below Baghdad, that tumbles some of their buildings. Their smaller buildings too. But between Iran and Afghanistan and Pakistan, this whole little area right here is shifting big time. The plates were there. I don't know, again, where the plate lines or anything of that is. I'm just going by my gaze and what Spirit's showing me. But this whole part of this map right here jumps out at me. All of it. All the way over to Iraq and even Syria and Egypt. But if I were to pick the main area, it would be this part right here. All of Iran, from actually the word Iran, all the way down to Pakistan, Afghanistan, and even up into here. So something big's coming to that area in the way of big, huge weather events that cause, again, buildings to topple big time in one of Iran's cities. So let's see, let me get closer here. Because I feel like city, Iran, closest to, my computer's a little slow here. Closest to Afghanistan. So I don't know what's big city here. Maybe Kashmir? Somewhere in this area. What I'm pointing at is where I believe the biggest damage will take place. But again, Spirit shows me this whole part, this whole piece of the land right here is shifting greatly. Greatly. Even to the point that even Kuwait's going to have some problems with some of the tremors and aftershocks that come. I also see cracks. Spirit shows me big cracks developing. Big cracks right near water, and I believe it might be over near this water. Cracks where that it could divert some of this water. And I remember Spirit saying something to me about that recently, about water being diverted from an earthquake. So perhaps it's right there. India, oh India, Spirit says. India, oh India. How much you must prepare. Politically and as far as weather and everything else is concerned. Big shifts and changes are coming to also this area. So that's not far from where we were just saying that other big epicenter is. So right in here, Spirit brings me to this whole little piece of India. But I'm also pulled down here between Thailand and Cambodia. So one of the biggest earthquakes I believe that we would experience in the next 6 months to the year is going to be right here in India. In India, closer to Bangladesh, right up in this area. But I'm also pulled down here to this whole little area here that I believe is going to have such a bit of a shaking when it comes to weather. So I'm going to say first, going back over, where was I? Lost my spot. Bangkok, Cambodia, Vietnam. Let's see. Show me spirit, show me spirit. That washer was pretty loud, huh? Yeah, so that's one of those tsunami waves that come in could actually be hitting right here in Vietnam. This little area, all right here, this whole little piece is jumping out at me. They're going to see major, massive storms, especially Vietnam. I see rivers overflowing, people evacuating areas of Vietnam due to the waters. I see very high waters, but I also see very high waters along the edge to the ocean, like big waves slamming. I don't know if they're small tsunami waves or it's storm surge, but the people of Vietnam, and I see this going into Cambodia and Bangkok. Not only that, these areas right here between this piece down here in Cambodia, shrink, there you go, between Cambodia and Hong Kong. Spirit says, and I don't know this, but Spirit says Hong Kong's used to earthquakes, but they're not used to the one that's coming. Luckily, they're prepared enough that it won't do as much damage as it could do if it was hitting somewhere else. And that's what Spirit says. I don't know what any of that means. I'm just the messenger, friends. I'm just the messenger. Oh, the South China Sea. All right. Down further, Spirit says down. Down. Oh, we have friends in Singapore. I know we have friends in the Philippines and Indonesia here in our tribe that vibe with our tribe. Let me shrink this a bit because I feel like this whole area right here, all the way down to the edge of Australia, all the way in here, all the way out to Thailand, as far as big events happening with weather. And I know that's a big area. I know. I know it's a huge area, friends. I know it's huge. Bear with me now. Bear with me. It's a huge area, but this whole area, I feel like so much activity is happening. And I imagine that there's some plate lines here because I know Papua New Guinea gets quite a bit of earthquakes down there, especially down in this area. But I'm up here. So even though they're used to it down there, I'm up here. So perhaps the vision I had of islands going under the water that I was just assuming that it would be the Solomon Islands, I don't know, could actually be in this area here. Let's get closer. This is where Spirit says we're going to see the massive volcanic explosion. Explosion. Spirit's like explosion, not eruption. Explosion. So that's going to be a big one. Might blow off the whole top of the mountain. I believe that's somewhere in here between Papua New Guinea and over there. So what country is that again? Indonesia. So right between that big landmass there and over here. Oh yeah, there are the Solomon Islands right there. So yeah, okay. But let me just shrink it and show you the whole area that Spirit says massive activity. Storms, earthquakes, all of it, of course. But we're going from Papua New Guinea down to this very tip of upper tip, northern tip of Australia, out here to Indonesia, Vietnam, just that big circle right there. I would say that big circle right there would be where we would end up seeing that massive tsunami wave that is ignited from right about here. So that would be hitting towards the Philippines. And would that go across the ocean? It'd probably die out by the time it got across the ocean. Spirit just told me multiple tsunamis, multiple. Most small, but one's going to be tremendous in size. So going back here to this area. So this area between Indonesia and Papua New Guinea is where I believe this massive again, volcanic explosion, Spirit says. Now, I don't know nothing about this area. I don't know what's there as far as volcanoes, but remember, I also saw people being evacuated from a good distance, too. So anybody in this area that can tell us or feed us in the comments of where that could be, right, basically right there between those two places. Which means this part of Australia. Australia, mate. Spirit did say Queensland, Australia, massive flooding. All right. But I would expect the friends up here in this area of Australia. Is there anything big up here? Or is it all outback? Right here in the tip. Earthquakes. All right in this area right here. And it's not that they're having the direct earthquake. The earthquake's coming up here from mainly the Papua New Guinea. Whatever it is that's happening and stirring up here right around the Solomon Islands is going to be huge. Remember, Spirit showing me literally islands sinking and another island becoming bigger. And that's if I'm correct as far as location, Solomon Islands. I'm pretty sure, though. I'm pretty sure that it sounded like that to me, the Spirit. So whatever hits there and affects that area right there, of course, in turn, it's going to affect this part of Australia and all the way out to Fiji. Bet you it's gorgeous down here. I would love to go down there and visit. So right here is Solomon Islands. The upper part, Spirit said, the upper part up here. The upper part. Fiji needs to be on alert for tsunami warnings. When they hear them, they should take them seriously. So what's around there? Let's go around this map a little bit. Where's our friends in New Zealand at? New Caledonia. Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, right there, Spirit says. Right here between New Caledonia and up here at the top of the Solomon Islands. I believe that's where the big event happens, right in that area. Yeah, that jumps out at me. That's where things change. Which means, again, our friends down here in Australia, Queensland, Australia especially, Brisbane and Queensland need to be very, very aware of. I don't know if you have tsunami warnings out there. If you do, take them seriously. But right here, anything that happens, especially a plate that's going to cause islands to sink, an island sinking and another one getting bigger is going to cause quite a wave, friends, quite a wave. And that wave is going to come straight on down here. And that's probably what Spirit said with Fiji. For our friends in Fiji to take the warning seriously, go to higher ground. So I don't know when this is happening, but I'm not saying it's all in 2024, but definitely within the next few years. And as we approach the year 2029, that's where we're going to see the biggest shifts in land masses on the planet. There's going to be, again, happening before that, but the biggest are going to happen, Spirit says, 2029. Which actually, come to think of it, happens to be a 4-year numerology, right? 2029, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, yep. And what was the last 4 year we had? 2020. And what happened in 2020? Lockdowns. Remember my predictions about lockdowns in different areas due to weather events. That could be when we see that come into fruition right around 2029. Moving right along. China's just going to get pounded. I see a big, something really, really huge. I guess I'd say a typhoon. Spirit says it's in your named storms. So one of them named storms is heading right through the Philippine Sea, right up through Taiwan. I don't know if it's one of the named storms. I don't know if they have different named storms for over there or not. They might. They actually probably do. But it's a named storm, Spirit says, and it's coming right over here. It's going to pound Taiwan terribly. And they're hitting it, but I believe that it's almost like a tornado, right? That's kind of hitting the top tip up here and nailing the coast of China right there. Big one. Big typhoon. Likely a category 5. Our friends in Japan. I think that little volcano island that's happening, I think that's down here maybe. Somewhere around there, that volcano that's forming another small island, which I think is still slowly erupting. But yeah, this whole area here flaring up flaring up. So folks that are close to Osaka, this city here, this part of Japan would be my biggest shaking, which means that would also affect the tip of South Korea as well. Now, I'm pretty sure Fukushima, I think, is up here. Spirit said that there would be another earthquake activity acting up closer to Tokyo. So that would be right around here, around the ocean, which could be our potential of one of our other tsunamis heading right along this coast right here from an earthquake that happens out here, right out here somewhere. And they're not used to, oh, come on, shrink, darn it. It's map. There we go. Also, besides that, in Japan, again, I see that whole bottom tip right here. Just very, very fragile. That's the word Spirit uses. It's very fragile. So that means any kind of movement of plates, meaning the plates are fragile, would have more of an impact if they're fragile, in Spirit's words. All right, let me shrink this down a little bit. We're going to have to do this more often because I have to cut this short in a moment. Ooh, look at over here. The activity realm. Puerto Rico. Small earthquakes lead to big earthquakes, says Spirit. Small earthquakes lead to big earthquakes. So I see, let me shrink this down a little bit more because I see storms in my visions. I see right here. Yeah, storm that develops over here comes straight across, moves, and then it makes a turn, comes up here. So that could be New York. I feel like, again, there's a hurricane, a tropical that turns hurricane that comes up here but makes a turn upwards. So they may even say it's heading towards, say, right there, towards Virginia. But I feel like it's coming across and making a sharp turn, a sharp sudden turn, kind of like Hurricane Sandy did. Hurricane Sandy was going along the coast and then made a sharp turn right into the New Jersey coastline. So there, Louisiana and our friends in Louisiana, because I feel something is developing over here. Something that comes over this way, like right in this gap somehow, which means it's hitting Cuba, breaking down a little bit, but gathering much more strength before it hits right around between Louisiana and Houston. Houston, we have a problem. So those two areas, like there, right here. So I think it might actually, New Orleans might luck out with this one heading up towards this way, but it feels like in between both. So right around here would be the point where it would hit or touch ground. And again, watch the dates of those storms if they touch down. Now, Tampa just jumped out at me. Why do you jump out at me, Tampa? Oh, it's on that side. That's right. All right. Tampa, be aware. Batten down the hatches, says the spirits. It's going to trick you, says Spirit. Whatever it is, it's going to trick you. Batten down the hatches. Batten down the hatches. And it could even be something that ends up on one side, but gathers some kind of odd strength by the time it gets to this side. So we have some storms, two storms that are coming up here through the Bahamas. And the fear is going to be whether that storm's going to hit over here near the tip of Florida, right at the Everglades National Park towards the Keys, or if it's going to somehow sway upwards and hit between Miami and Fort Lauderdale, where it is actually going to go. Now, remember, Spirit said a storm going along the West Coast. Let's jump over to the West Coast real quick. My computer's going to run out of memory in a minute as I'm recording this map. San Francisco just jumped out at me. Well, it's the only thing there that says anything. San Francisco. Rice-a-roni, the San Francisco treat. Oh, moving along. I've been doing this work all day today. I need food. My body needs food. Santa Barbara quake. A Santa Barbara quake. So, small, but enough. I don't know why I'm pulled to these two little land masses here and right in between, but I'm pulled to Santa Barbara and I'm pulled right to this area. I'm not sure why. Again, I can only make a guess unless Spirit shows me, but I am pulled to this part of California. So my intelligent guess would be that this is earthquake related. That may even be right off the coast right here. Now, more than anything, Spirit said there would be a big storm that comes up this coast. Or comes down the coast, up or down the coast, whichever. So right at the bottom where Mexico, down here, Baja earthquake, but a big storm that comes in over here. Chile's going to shake tremendously. That just popped in my mind. I'm not even looking at Chile on the map. It just popped in my mind. Chile's going to shake greatly in the very near future. Don't be surprised if that's something that's actually man-made, if you know what I mean. And it's going to be close by of where those wildfires were, or are, actually. Which we know are all a result of a dew. It's a land grab in Chile, friends. That's what that is. Land grab. All right, I think I'm going to just end off with that for now. I think I have enough for now, but we'll do this again in the near future. Venezuela. Excuse me. Venezuela, Havana. Okay, I'm just talking out loud. These places are where I'm pulled to. Venezuela. Okay, sorry. Not that I need to apologize for anything, but I mumble because I'm like tranced out. So Venezuela over here, I see major activity with a huge quake, and we're going to see many, many big, huge, large quakes according to Spirit. Now remember, last year we saw so many large, massive quakes, but this year we haven't seen much yet, but Spirit says we're going to top it. Give it time. Give it time. Look for the time period of April, too, for massive quakes. Potentially right here in that area of Venezuela where I just said, actually. And that could also be where we'll see that big quake along the edge of Chile. Now, Spirit makes me think it might be sooner, actually. The Chile quake may be much, much sooner. And so where those volcanoes, remember Spirit said, watch the volcanoes. And this whole area of the map right here, this whole part of from San Francisco all the way up to Vancouver, Canada. That is an area that we're going to see likely, without a doubt, massive earthquakes. And that would likely be, and remember, Spirit said three happening, and I would believe that kind of one's out here on the coast, right? One's inland, right above here, right around San Francisco. And we have one happening up here towards the edge of Washington, right near Seattle. And I feel like they're all connected to each other. It's like, down, 1, 2, and then one out in the water somewhere, right off the coast. Probably actually in between the two, right here at the edge of Oregon. Between Oregon. So what else is right there? So below Portland, or maybe actually right outside of Portland, which would actually be significant of a tsunami of some sort hitting the coastline of Portland or the coastline of Oregon near Portland. I'm going to just stop for there for now because, again, I'm going to run out of memory on this computer. This is the first time I've done this with y'all in a long, long time. Again, I started this method way back. Tennessee. Tennessee's jumping out at me. I started this over a decade ago when I lived back east. And I gave it the term Map Scryng. So if you hear that term, I deemed it. They should allow me to put that in the Webster's Dictionary. Yeah, there's Chattanooga. Yeah, Tennessee's jumping out at me. Tennessee is going to have some problems. Some problems with all types of weather type of events happening throughout Tennessee, especially up here near Nashville. Storms, again, the tornadoes, and the visions of the tornadoes that I had near a city might actually be in Nashville. Now, I was pulled to Texas with tornadoes, but that tornado vision that I had, that actually, the more I think about it, could be actually near Nashville. I'm sure Nashville has big buildings, high buildings. South Carolina, the Carolinas in general, all along here need to prepare for major hurricane season. It's a whole little tip here. Charleston. It might actually make landfall right around Charleston, between Charleston and Myrtle Beach. So those two areas. And again, as we see storms develop, my friends, as we see storms develop, always tune in on Tuesdays, because we'll always be on top of what the spirits are telling us are going to happen. And as you know, spirits are better at this than the weatherman is. And I'm going to leave you just with that as I shrink down the earth. And that's what I have for you for now. This is only my first prediction video for 2024 as far as weather is concerned. So I will have more on the way. And there you have it, my beautiful friends. I very much hope that you enjoyed to this point today. And remember, every Tuesday we cover big stories in the world, how they relate or may not relate to predictions and prophecy, with new predictions each and every week. And many of my predictions, especially weather predictions that came true right away, were predictions that I made on a Tuesday's Tea Time episode. Like when I said that there would be a massive earthquake in Afghanistan, and within 24 hours, there was a massive quake in Afghanistan. So to be in tune and on top of everything, tune in every Tuesday and subscribe to the free newsletter down below. It's free. You'll never miss content. You'll see special offers on readings, inspirational content, and much more. Other than that, I thank all of my supporters who make all this free content possible for everybody else. I couldn't do it without you. I love you with infinite love and gratitude, and thank you with infinite love and gratitude. Until the next time, beautiful friends, remember to be prepared, not scared. Celebrate life, celebrate you. Be kind to others as you wish others be kind to you, and remember to be bold. Be true, be kind, be you, because you're amazing. Have a beautiful, amazing rest of your day. Much love.